Today I'm talking with David and Jill Taylor, valuable church members and local ministers. David and Jill lead ChristChurch Bible Study Fellowship Group, and I've asked them just to give us an insight into what this group actually does.
Well, we all began some 2 years or so ago following the Lent groups, which was an initiative taken to invite the church to consider doing a session of Bible studies, which I believe is an essential part of the church's work, learning more about our faith. And we decided that we would invite people from our house group to join up with the Lent groups, and if there was a need for it to continue, we said, well, let's carry on. And there was a good number who had never been to a Bible study group before who said, well, yeah, we'd like to continue. And here we are today, 2 years on, and we're still meeting, regularly, fortnightly. But maybe Jill could say more about when we meet and where we meet and what we do.
Yes, we decided to meet fortnightly. That seems to work. And like David said, it was in our own home at first. But from the Lent group meetings, it grew. The numbers became bigger. And so we decided to hold it here at ChristChurch. And we picked on a Thursday afternoon, starting at 2 o'clock and going through to 2:30. So that's the days and the times. And we usually put them in the notices, the church notices, when they are happening.
Yeah, so we try to take a theme which we can follow for a certain length of time, but we don't want to sort of overdo it and, go on for too long with it. We like to freshen it up every now and again. Sometimes we follow a set course, as we are doing at the moment with this faith and life. But again, it's just a guide for us to follow, and we don't like anything to inhibit conversation, although at the same time, sometimes you have to draw people back to the subject. We've looked at some of the well-known Psalms and read some of those. We've looked at some of the faults in the Christian life, the faults of prejudice and faults of when we're not really being the church as was intended to be. But by and large, we're not sort of deep theologists, so nobody needs to get them worried at all. Some people have quite a lot to say, others are very quiet and just like to listen in, and that's fine by us. It's just a sharing together. Because I have a strong belief that our church life doesn't just revolve around on Sunday worship, but it's an important time for us to meet together we make time for prayer. We pray for one another. Today, as it happens, Trevor, not everybody's been here. One or two, a couple are recovering from surgery, and another couple are a bit under the weather. So we've become not a separate group from the church, not at all. I would like to think that we may even grow and split, and because that can happen as well.
Yeah, good. David, would you like to just give us a bit of an insight into your visiting members in prison?
Yes, that all began not long after we moved to Grantham. I came in touch with one or two people who were involved with Watton Prison near Bingham, about 12 miles or so from here, and heard that there was a need for prison visitors to visit prisoners who don't have any visitors at all, or very, very rarely. It's a sex offenders prison, and by the very nature of the prison itself, a lot of their inmates have been shunned by their families and otherwise wouldn't get a visit. So I decided to put my name down and went through a period of training for it and screening for it. And it was really one or two people here in Grantham that sowed the seed. And at the moment, I'm not actually visiting someone. I'm sort of in between, where either a prisoner has left and gone to another prison or has been released. We don't always know, and perhaps we shouldn't know what has happened to them when they leave the prison. But it's something which, I found Very helpful and a bit scary to think of at first, but just ordinary conversation. They're ordinary people who just happen to be the wrong side of the law and are in prison, and they're really just like you and me, you know. They enjoy conversation, and sometimes I do more listening than talking, believe it or not.
What can you tell me about your experience as street pastors?
Well, over to Jill on this one.
Well, we've both been involved, but I've probably been out on the street, whereas David has done prayer pastor. That's, I feel, as important as being out on the streets. And that goes back to before we moved to Grantham. That's 10 years ago. We got involved in Boston street pastors. And there was a feeling among the churches, different churches in the town, that there was a need to be out there to help and to care for youngsters that, okay, were choosing to be out in the streets very late, drinking, but they then would get themselves into quite a lot of bother, and particularly girls were quite vulnerable to be not totally with it and wandering about, you know, and how to get home. And so we did a lot of training for that, months of training, because of course there's a lot of health and safety and first aid, and we had a policeman there for a while because they're also out at night helping too. So these clubs, as I say, they encourage the youngsters to drink, because drinks can be quite cheap, and so as the night goes on they get more and more drunk. So we could be out, we used to go out at 10:30 after meeting for prayer in the prayer room, where the prayer pastors would be there while we were out. They would be on the end of a phone which we'd got, to report any real needs for prayer, which there often was, because people could get hurt quite badly, you know, if they fell. I think the worst thing I had was someone was bottled in the face, where there's a smashed bottle, and then, you know, because I say it's drinking, isn't it? You know, people aren't acting rationally, they're just wild, really. But on the other hand, we've had a girl that's just in tears because it's her first time in the town and she's lost her friends, and it was her birthday and she just wants to get home to her mum. You know, so we could often put them in a taxi,
Right.
and we could speak to the taxi driver and make sure she got home safely, or we could sometimes ring home for them. So as I say, it's sad in a way that there's a need, but there is a need. So we've carried on here in Boston, in Grantham, but more now. We both do prayer now, don't we?
Yes, from time to time. Yeah.
And when we're asked, we're on a rota, you know, to be asked. So I think it's something the churches can witness, because they often say, "Why are you doing this?" They assume you're being paid for it. So then why are you doing it? So then, without pushing it, you can say, well, this is something the churches in the town care about, you know, and we want it to be safe, so this is why we're out here. Yeah.